Well, hello and welcome to North Star Oasis. I'm your host, Jeff Williams. We're here for another jam-packed, action-filled information overload on this 12th day of September 2019. Thanks for joining us. You know, I'm sitting here thinking about tonight's Democrat debate. You know what? I better check Snopes, because it would not surprise me if they issue a pre-approval for all of the statements that will be made tonight. It's probably already out there. Whatever the Democrats say tonight is going to be true according to Snopes. So take that for what it's worth. Coming from Snopes, I don't necessarily know. In the political version of Snopes, I'm not necessarily sure that that's really worth anything. Anyhow, we are going to speaking of a jam-packed, action-filled overload, information overload, we are going to actually have a jam-packed, action-filled information overload. A few months ago, Minnesota's 5th Congressional District Congresswoman, Ilhan Omar, said something. Yes, she said something. And we want to show you what she says, because the day after the anniversary of 9/11, it's important that we take a look at what she says and balance that out with the historical facts. So here's Ilhan Omar.
So to me, I say raise hell, make people uncomfortable. Because here's the truth. Here's the truth. Far too long, we have lived with the discomfort of being a second-class citizen. And frankly, I'm tired of it, and every single Muslim in this country should be tired of it. CARE was founded after 9/11 because they recognized that some people did something and that all of us were starting to lose access to our civil liberties. So you can't just say that today someone is looking at me strange, that I am going to try to make myself look pleasant. You have to say.
Okay, so now, first of all, we know that Ilhan Omar has not necessarily been known for having staying close to factual statements. CARE was founded, I believe it was June of 1994. Yes, I am correct. June of 1994. It was founded not after 9/11, but before 9/11, like years before 9/11. 7 years before 9/11, in fact. So Ilhan Omar is wrong there. And then she talks about making people uncomfortable. I'm going to pull up a quick story here. I'm not going to read it all. I'm just going to read you the headline. Alabama school district removes To Kill a Mockingbird, says it makes people uncomfortable. This is from 2017. A Mississippi school district has removed To Kill a Mockingbird from junior high reading list because they received complaints that some of the book's language makes people uncomfortable. That's the Biloxi School Board. So if we want to make people uncomfortable, then aren't we supposed to ban that very thing which makes people uncomfortable? According to left-wing logic, in Alabama anyway, that's what we're supposed to do. If we're uncomfortable about something, we have to remove it, because we're not allowed to say that which offends somebody. But yet Ilhan Omar just said something that offends a whole bunch of people. Now, again, I bring up the fact that she is not factually correct. Here's the other thing I want to point out about World Trade Center. This is the incident. There is a slight connection with what Omar said, as far as the founding of CARE. There is an incident. 1993, there was a bombing in the basement garage of the World Trade Center. That was 1993, 8 years before 9/11. That preceded the founding of CARE by 1 year. Let's take a look, and if you're old enough to remember the sights and sounds of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, take a look at this.
come down probably from someplace higher up. The air. Watch is actually below.
On the morning of Tuesday.
This, remember now, was February 26th of 1993. The North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City. The attack was planned by a group of terrorists, including Ramzi Youssef, Mohammed Abu Halima, Mohammed Salama, Nidal Ayad, Abdul Rahman Yassin, and Ahmad Ayay. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly. No offense is intended here. They received financing from Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Youssef's uncle. This is really where we began having more of a questioning attitude towards Muslims in America. So, yes, out of this, CARE was founded. CARE actually was founded over legitimate concern. That part I'm not going to dispute. However, here is really the thing that drives people nuts. And this is where Ilhan Omar is wrong. You want to know about 9/11? Hey, yesterday was the 18th anniversary of 9/11. You know, that does mean that today, September 12th, is the first day that new eligible voters and new military members who can enlist in their own volition without their parent or guardian signature can actually have been born and have had no recollection of 9/11. They were all born after 9/11. Again, the newest eligible. That doesn't necessarily mean somebody who is 26 years old and decides to enlist in the military or decides to finally vote tomorrow. No, they've been around. But the fact is, now we are at that point where September 11th, 2001 isn't even a memory for the newest adults. That's how far we've gone. Ilhan Omar, she's what? How old is Ilhan? I believe she's 30. I'm going to look it up real quick. She's 37. She's a little older than I thought she was. Okay. Yeah, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is 29. So, okay. So, 37. So, she was 19 years old. Ilhan Omar was 19 years old when 9/11 occurred. I would kind of like Ilhan Omar to actually step up and say, hey, this is my recollection of 9/11. But she never does that. She uses 9/11 to get into your face and tell you you're wrong. Somebody born in Somalia who's brought here as a refugee is now a member of Congress going to tell you you're wrong, that you cannot believe what you believe, even though you're an American. And you were born here and you were raised here. So now, what happened 18 years ago? Somebody did something. We just heard that from Ilhan Omar. Somebody did something. Well, here's what they did. This is something we put out a year ago, and we're going to show it to you in its entirety.
Tuesday, September the 11th, 2001, 19 men boarded 4 internal flights out of Boston, Washington, and Newark with a common aim: to hijack the planes and use them as deadly weapons of mass destruction. The first plane, an American Airlines Boeing 767 with 92 passengers and 5 hijackers on board, crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York at precisely 8:46 local time. Shortly afterwards, at 9:03, another Boeing 767, this time flown by United Airlines, with 65 passengers and a further 5 hijackers on board, smashed into the South Tower, as millions around the world watched in fascinated horror as the images were captured live on TV. Then in Washington at 9:43, an American Airlines Boeing 757, with 64 people and another 5 hijackers aboard, crashed onto the Pentagon building. The impact blew a massive hole in the western facade of the Defense Ministry building. At 10:06, a fourth plane, a United Boeing 757 carrying 44 passengers and 4 hijackers, came down in a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. The hijackers' target was never clear, but with a flying time of just a further 20 minutes to Washington, it has been suggested it was on course for the Capitol or even the White House. What is known, however, is that some of the passengers, who had learned of the twin tragedies in New York on their mobile phones, overpowered the hijackers. The Twin Towers of the World Trade Center crumbled like a pack of cards in a deluge of debris and dust. The South Tower was first to fall, collapsing at 1 minute to 10 in just 10 seconds, and the North Tower followed at 10:28. The attacks were eventually claimed by Al-Qaeda, at the time a little-known Islamic terror group, and cost the lives of 2,979 people in the planes and on the ground, 2,750 of them in New York alone.
Welcome back to Good Day. These are live pictures for you right now. A tragic accident apparently has just happened in New York City. A plane has crashed right into the World Trade Center. You can see the smoke and the flames coming out of the shattered windows.
The World Trade Center, of course, in New York's financial district, Twin Towers, of course, was the target of a terrorist bombing several years ago down in the basement area. There's a huge gaping hole in one of the towers of the World Trade Center. Thousands, tens of thousands of people actually work inside those two buildings in the heart of New York's financial district, and we're looking at live pictures right now from one of the television stations in New York. Let's go ahead and see if we can listen in now to some live news coverage that's going on right now on the scene.
The World Trade Center.
Yes, sir.
And
I'm like on the 14th floor, so I was just like looking out, you know, because there's like a fire, something like fire staircase or something, you know, just like a little balcony. And I saw it go right into the building, and I was like, oh my God, you know. And and it was a big plane. It wasn't, you know, a little plane. It was fairly big.
how big can you tell us? Give us an idea.
I don't know. I would say it was like a plane that I board on to go, you know, to, wow.
So this wasn't just a small Piper Cub or something that,
no.
that had gone the wrong way, and of course,
no.
we would, the weather, I take it, where you are is just about picture perfect.
Picture perfect, yes. It's very clear outside.
We have a number of floors on fire. It looked like the plane was aiming towards the building. Transmit a third alarm. We'll have the staging area at Vesey and West Street.
Look at the hole. Holy shit. It was a plane? It was definitely a plane?
They said a 737 plane. Steve.
Think that was a suicide?
If that was a terrorist attack,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's on. You know it, right?
I don't know, guy.
Everything's fucked up.
I just thank God my mother's on vacation.
Get an offside line.
Walk to 7. And when you don't put any higher than 70. What's wrong? 78. Right elevation. Any elevator work? 70. One over.
That as you look at the picture from our chopper now arriving at the scene, Jim Friedel in Hoboken said it appeared to bank sharply and smash directly, perhaps purposefully, into, oh my goodness,
oh God,
there's another one. Oh my goodness, there's another one.
This seems to be on purpose.
Oh my goodness,
Another plane?
Now it's obvious, I think, that there's a second plane just crashed into the World Trade Center. I think we have a terrorist act of proportions that we cannot begin to imagine at this juncture.
Both towers of the World Trade Center have been hit by aircraft. Both are in flames.
There is black smoke coming from both of the towers. It's a horrific scene here.
Mayday.
There were
were two planes. I saw the second one hit. It hit the other tower. Holy shit, Martin. That's the other building. That's terrorists. Other building? That's terrorists, bro. That's fucking terrorists.
Holy shit! Oh my God.
That's terrorists, bro.
They just shut out. Did you get that?
I zoomed out on it. We gotta get the fuck out of here? We gotta get out of here. Heck, this is a terrorist attack. Heck, that was another plane.
Stay together. Stay together. Let me know what's going on. We're just gonna have to walk in. No way to go. Second plane just missed. It's all the fucking.
I'm gonna send him up. I got no chief up there.
All right, I want to use the lobby of 7 as a triage.
Don't be kicking stuff over. Get this as evidence. No, you don't kick it. All right, just get out of the area. Just go. This is evidence. You're kicking stuff. What's the matter with you?
NYPD, Port Authority, police, and the military. And I need that done now. This is a dangerous way to go out. This is Tower 1.
This is Tower 1. Put a big one here. People are dead? Do you know how many people are dead? Do you know how many people are dead?
All right, take one and 2, 1. This is as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the two towers. Debris continues to fall and to rain on the people below. There are people hanging from the windows 90 stories up, and a number of bodies have actually hit the pavement. Take 2. Take 2 and 2, 1. This is as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the firemen assembled here, the police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the two towers. A huge explosion now raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way!
Everybody all right?
Yeah, I'm okay.
How's the way out of here? All right, come on down this way. Yeah, let's get out the way we came in.
Command post from Tower 1. All units. Evacuate the building. Command post to all units.
Hey guys, here, we need a hand here.
We saw him lying at the base of the escalator where we were. And I removed his white collar and I opened up his shirt. And I remember checking for his pulse and realizing at that time he was gone.
All right, we got 4 guys. Yeah, I got it. Top of the escalator. Top of the escalator? Top of the escalator.
World Trade Center, we took a hit on that last explosion. Which way?
to Division 1.
Take your soldier's mask. Get masked, we get an extra soldier, and I want to go in. You have ambulances straight down.
Cones of body. Cones of bodies. Stay away from them.
Can I have that shoulder? Is Larry with us? Larry Mullen? No, Larry's not with us.
We only have 5, right?
5. We have Kaya, Bradley. Where's Bradley?
Right here.
He's over there. Cool, okay.
This police vehicle has its windows smashed out, completely covered with debris and rubble. Just a snapshot of the destruction that this terrorist attack brought.
We've been searching for more than 5 hours now, and we are just approaching ground zero. Beth continues to pass out as many flyers and posters as she can, and now she'll continue to look firsthand for her friends. We've got credentials.
It's not safe down here.
It's not safe?
It's not safe. Trust me.
Okay, she's looking for her friend. You can see she's handing out. She has two friends that are missing.
All right, I tell you
we've
what.
just been following her.
You want to go?
Come right over here?
Go down to the next corner over there. They have like a command center over there.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
They have a command center right down the block over there. They have a command center.
All right, thank you.
Searching all day for him and Lindsay Purvis, who work at Morgan Stanley. John Vivian is a friend. I'm doing this on behalf of his wife. She said, I don't want people to come sit with me, go out and search. So we've had search parties all day, going up and down to all the hospitals. And we just... Did you just say Lindsay Purvis? Yes, Lindsay. Lindsay's missing, yes. Lindsay Purvis? Yes, Lindsay Purvis. Yes, yes.
Ashley, what's going on? Come here, Ashley. Come here. Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Somebody did something. 19 people did something. All in one day, 18 years ago. Now, there's a video, and it's only 22 seconds long. If you were around then, this is the only time in American history since the Wright brothers created the airplane in 1903 that U.S. airspace was completely closed down except for the military. All commercial airliners were forced out of the skies because of 4 aircraft that crashed. 2 into the Trade Center, 1 in the Pentagon, and 1 was forced down over Pennsylvania because of the passengers. Here's what happened with the rest of the air traffic, and we're going to take a look at this graphic now. This is created by NASA, and it shows the FAA closure of U.S. airspace. So as you notice, all these aircraft are departing, and then slowly we start seeing it disappear and fade out, and then it's pretty rapid, and then there's nothing. Nothing like that has ever happened.
9/11.
That's what happened on 9/11. Now, of course, a lot of times we talk about, from when we refer to 9/11, we talk about those who died, as rightfully we should. We also talk about the firefighters and the police department from New York City and the New York, New Jersey Port Authority, as well we should. But the one thing that we seem to not talk about were those who were inside the towers who actually got out. We never talk about those who got out of the Pentagon. I actually served, when I was in Kuwait, I served for a commander who was at the Pentagon and was 500 feet away from losing his life. And then there are some libertarian friends of mine who are conspiracy theorists who tell me that that didn't happen. Well, I know people who had lost people at the World Trade Center. I knew people who almost lost their lives at the Pentagon. I actually I met a couple of people who had survived the World Trade Center. So it's very real, despite what those libertarians have to say. So we're going to take a look right now at one of the 9/11 survivors as she shares her story on how she was able to get out of one World Trade Center.
9/11 started out like most mornings. You just get up, the alarm goes off, and you get ready to go to work. Little did I know my whole world was going to change that morning. Got into work, and roughly 8:30-ish,
my world shook. My desk literally shifted from the wall. It was like nothing we've ever felt before. So everybody just looked at each other and was like, well, what was that? Strobes went off and the sirens went off, and everybody just was listening for the announcements of what to do next. And then my supervisor came through and she was like, okay, we're holding yet. And then my manager came through and was like, we have to go. We've got to go now. We just started to funnel, and then I was like, wait a minute, my friend Edith wasn't with us, and she was one of my best friends. So I knew she went to the ladies' room, so I funneled the opposite direction from what they wanted us to do. And I went to go past to make sure she was okay. But as you entered the hallway, the smell was unreal. And you immediately realized it was gas. So we thought a gas line exploded. But as you passed the elevator doors, they were sucked in, so they kind of looked like a C shape almost. And we just kept going towards the ladies' room, and my boss was like, well, make sure that she's okay. But you have to head into the staircase to get down. And I was like, okay, but I need to know that she's all right. So he opened up the ladies' room door and was like, there's nobody here. Because we went that way, we ended up in a staircase that's considered an external stairway. And we didn't know that it was a plane until somebody called their spouse. So as we were funneling into the stairs, because now you have to imagine people are already starting to walk down. You can only get in like one person at a time. Somebody in front of us gets a phone call, and we found out that a plane hit the building. So we were basically just amazingly calm how people stood. I mean, going down the steps and funneling information back to each other. And I can remember the gentleman behind me nudging and nudging, and I was leaning on my faith about as hard as I could lean and praying just to get out of the building. I just wanted to go home. I wanted to see my family. I had a lot of pain in my back at that point, and my legs were going numb, because you have to realize we were on the 35th floor. So walking down those steps, it's like 2 full flights, so it's 14 and then 14 before you get to the landing. And I just kept praying, and I was like, Lord, I know you're busy right now, but I can't do this without you, because I'm hurting and I can't, everything is going numb. Could you walk with me? And I am a firm believer in angels. I've believed in angels my entire life. And I said to him, if you can't, can you send somebody to walk with me? I can't explain the feeling that comes over you when you know that everything's going to be okay. Well, it just kind of washed over. And it felt like somebody took their hand and put it on the small of my back and stood me straight. There was no more pain. There was no more tingling. I couldn't feel anything, but I couldn't feel the pain either. And I walked and continued to walk. And the information just kept coming up the stairway, like, it's dim here, there's water, be careful, hold on. When we got to the bottom, I mean, I remember every face of every fireman walking up the steps as I was coming down. I can remember their faces and how the older ones had like more of a solemn look, like they didn't want to have expression, but you kind of could see it in their eyes that they knew they weren't going to come back down. When I got to the bottom, there was an officer there, and he was looking up. And at the time, we didn't know why he was looking up, but basically he was looking up for debris. And he told us, okay, see the door over there? I want you to hit that door running. If you drop something, it's gone. Don't stop, don't go back for it, keep going. So when he told me to go, I went. And then I hit the door. And on the inside of the financial center, the cops are all, and the EMS guys are going, come on, come on, come on. Because they wanted you to get through and away from the building. When we got out the other side, the lady I was looking for was standing right there. And she was like, they wouldn't let me go back to get you. I wanted to come for you. And I was like, well, I went to look for you. So we hugged.
So that was one survivor story. barely made it out. Can only imagine the fear that people felt. Going back to Ilhan Omar, somebody did something. Ilhan Omar, born October 4th, 1982, something I looked up during that clip. On September 11th, 2001, she was 18 years, 11 months, and 7 days old. 6,917 days of her life. I'd kind of like to know, what did Ilhan Omar do on September 11th, 2001? Was she mournful and shocked and in tears that an attack like this happened in her adopted country's soil? She became an American citizen the year before, in 2000. Did she cry like the rest of us did? Was she in shock? Or did she take time to celebrate? That there were people in Dearborn, Michigan that was shown on television. I remember watching on television people around the world, including in Dearborn, Michigan and Paterson, New Jersey, who were celebrating the attacks on 9/11. Did Ilhan Omar celebrate with them? Or was she shocked like the rest of us? Only Ilhan Omar knows what she did that day. Wish she'd kind of tell us. She is a member of Congress. See, I think everyone watching the show today can probably put themselves in that woman's footsteps, going down those stairwells, wondering, are you going to make it out alive? That, yeah, something did happen. Was this a gas line explosion that happened, numerous floors up? Was this an act of terror? Was this an accident? What happened? The uncertainty, the confusion, waiting for one person, only to find out that when you get out of the building, she's waiting for you. And yet you see those towers collapse. What was Ilhan Omar thinking that day? We're going to show you now another story. We're going to show you a brief interview with a person who almost didn't make it out. Her name is Janelle. She was the last survivor pulled out of the wreckage, the rubble, at Ground Zero. That the building had collapsed on top of her, and she was one of only a handful of people still making it out alive. This is her story. Let's take a look.
Hi, my name is Janelle Guzman McMillan. I work on the 64th floor of the World Trade Center for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. I was buried under the rubble of the World Trade Center for 27 hours. I was the last person rescued. Well, I got into work that Tuesday morning, which already dressed up, looking all fabulous because I'm into clothes and fashion, and never imagined that something of that magnitude was going to happen to me that day. But being on that floor, the 64th floor of the World Trade Center, that was the first building that got hit. I was there talking with my friends, my co-workers, and within probably 15 minutes, within my conversation, we felt the building shook. And didn't know what was going on. I went over, saw the bits of paper in the sky through the window. It took us a while to figure out what was going on. So we were there until the other plane hit the other building. And during that time, being the person that I was, and I realized when I find out that a plane, it could be a possible terrorist attack, that's when my life just flashed right before me. And I think about the life that I was living before. We descended down onto the staircase, and that's when we were heading down. Me and my co-worker, we were holding hands, and we made it to the 13th staircase. And during that time, I had on a 4-inch heel shoes, which I love because I love dressing up and stuff. And my shoes was paining, it was hurting, but I just wanted to get down because, I wanted to get out of the building. And when we make it to the 13th staircase, I decided to take my shoes off, and the building collapsed with me on the 13th staircase. the time spent under the rubble, it really had bring me closer to God. I prayed and I prayed. I see my life before. I see my daughter. She was 12 years at the time. I saw my family faces. I wanted to live, and being under there, I just begged and asked God for a second chance. I somehow put my left hand out, and I was feeling it like wavering in the open air. And I just kept praying and asking God, you know, save me, save me. I need a second chance. I promise. And it was just burning up my heart. I couldn't cry, literally, but I was crying inside. And my hand stood out there, and someone grabbed my hand and held onto my hand and said, call me by my name, said, Janelle, I got you. My name is Paul. And I held onto his hand so tight, and I just said to myself, I said, thank God. And I felt that total calmness and relief in my body, and I kept holding on to Paul's hand. And he kept saying to me, I'm not going to let you go. You're going to be fine. I have you. I'm not going to let you go. You're going to be okay. And I kept hearing his voice, and I kept squeezing his hands harder and harder, knowing that, making sure that I'm not dreaming, that he's really holding my hand. I tried to lift my head up, and my head was still stuck between the pillar, but I kept holding on to his hand. And I was asking him at one point, are they there yet? Because he told me that they're going to come and get me. They're almost here, and he's not going to let me go. And I keep asking, you know, are they there yet? And he said, you're going to be fine. I got you. I'm not going to let you go. And he kept holding my hand until after a couple of minutes, I could hear the rescuer coming by, removing the debris and stuff and cutting away stuff, until finally someone grabbed me, the back of my shoulder where my head was, and then Paul let go of my hand, and my head yanked out backwards, and I tried to open my eyes to see him, but it was just like a shadow. And I was just saying to myself, thank God, thank God. And I was smiling until they put me on top of the stretcher. And they got me out. It took a couple hours to get to the ambulance, and I could feel the sunlight in my eyes when I was actually out in the open. And people were cheering on, saying, you know, thank Jesus and God, God save her. And people were saying, you know, just cheering me on. And I just made it to the hospital, and I just kept Paul's name in my head, and I just wanted to meet my rescuer, Paul. I told my family when we reunited, I told them that the guy that saved me, who held my hand, his name is Paul, and I got to find him. And I've been looking for Paul, and I never found Paul. And when I was in the hospital, it took me like almost 7 weeks until I got home. And being in the hospital, the transformation, being under the rubble, I knew my life was changed. I knew that I was going to live that life. I wanted to start living it right away. I started to go to church. I went to the Brooklyn Tabernacle, and I got baptized, and I started reading my Bible and started understanding. I've been looking for Paul all over a year, and I was looking for someone to come forward as the person who rescued me. No one ever did, and I just came to the conclusion that Paul must have been that miracle I was asking for. And today I'm just so thankful. I'm just so thankful for life again. I want to tell people that, you know, angels do exist to me, and miracles happen on a daily basis. We just don't know some of it. But I believe in miracles, and I believe in angels.
And that is truly an amazing story as to what had happened with the last survivor from the Twin Towers. And when I say the last, of course, it's the last one pulled from the rubble. It was 27 hours that she was in the rubble. 27 hours. 1 day and 3 hours after the World Trade Center building tower collapsed. Can you imagine laying there trapped in rubble for 1 day and 3 hours? Wow. We're going to show you right now one other clip. This is from family members. If you ever recall back then, there was a photo of the Dust Lady, a woman named Marcy Borders. She was, I believe, 28 years old at the time. She was working for Bank of America. She was photographed covered with dust, and there's a yellowish tint to the photograph. She passed away in August of 2015 at the age of 42 from stomach cancer. The health effects of 9/11. Let's take a look at what her family has to say about her.
Let the weak say I am strong.
It's how Noelle Borders remembers her mom by singing one of her favorite songs.
Me and my mom were best friends.
To her family, she was Marcy Borders. To the world, the Dust Lady.
Nobody knows the real story.
This is the image of Borders minutes after the first of the Twin Towers fell. She had climbed down 81 flights of stairs to escape the North Tower.
She said first she saw papers flying out the window, chairs, and then she saw people and she just started running. So she left everything and ran because her main goal was me.
Noelle was just 8 that day. Now 22, she's had to say goodbye to her mother. Marcy Borders died of stomach cancer at the end of August. She was 42.
What does this loss mean to you?
We talked with Marcy Borders' sister, Dawn, brother, Michael, and her daughter, Noelle, just 2 days after they had laid her to rest. They'll never forget the stories she told about escaping the Twin Towers.
She just was wiping her eyes, and some man handed her a bottle of water and was like, "Are you okay?"
But that image didn't show the long-term damage.
Oh, Lord, I just wish that I could just have a peace of mind.
Ever since that day, she hated New York. She never wanted to go back in there.
She didn't trust a lot of people after that.
Depression, drug abuse, and like alcohol. But I really didn't see that. Yeah, she never like let us see it.
She eventually found hope.
She wanted God. She went to church 2 times a day. She left all of that in the past and she just focused on her daughter. Then when her son came, that was it.
Zayden was born 7 years ago. Borders regularly attended Narcotics Anonymous and kept working on putting her life back together.
My mom had went away for treatment and then she came back and she was ready to go for senior prom.
You look beautiful. I love you.
The life of the party, a person that was outgoing, encouraging, and focused and motivated.
Then like a couple of years later, she used to always tell me she had pain in her stomach.
It was cancer, possibly caused by her exposure to toxins on 9/11, but she managed to carry on for more than a year.
My sister didn't live her life like she had cancer. She still wanted to party. When I was home last, she said, "We're gonna go to Atlantic City, we're gonna turn up."
The well-known Bayonne, New Jersey native was even in a campaign commercial for a city council candidate.
In my opinion, I feel like she decided when she wanted to go. Cancer didn't decide when they wanted to take her.
She passed away August 24th.
I don't think it really has hit me yet.
How can you cry when someone lived their life as wonderful as she did?
I'm gonna remember my sister as Marcy Borders, not the Dust Lady, Marcy.
But the tributes from across the world on social media show how widely known that image became. Marcy Borders will always be an iconic face of 9/11.
It makes me feel good because her story never dies. It will forever live on. Her story doesn't end here. It's me. Like she always says, where the Dust Lady stops is where her daughter starts.
In Bayonne, New Jersey, James Ford, Pix 11 News.
Good morning. Sad story, but gone way too young. Of course, there are other family members who are survivors, people who lost their parents on 9/11. We're going to hear from one now. This is a statement that the son of one of the 9/11 victims said yesterday at the official ceremony in New York. And yes, he laid it all out, challenging Ilhan Omar for some people did something. He was personally affected by it in ways that you and I will never, ever know. Let's take a look.
Good morning, brothers and sisters in good faith. Listen, some people did something. I am here today to honor my 76-year-old mother, Frances, on the solemn 18th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. Mom, we all miss you and love you very much. This day I also remember over 200 personal friends and co-workers that I knew that died. I remember Virginia Fox, Warren Grifka, and Lou Avasano. And I remember your sons and your daughters, your parents and siblings, and all first responders. I remember all, I remember them all, and pray with you for them today. Some people did something, said a freshman congresswoman from Minnesota, to support and justify the creation of CARE. Today I am here to respond to you exactly who did what to whom. Madam, objectively speaking, we know who and what was done. There is no uncertainty about that. Why your confusion? On that day, 19 Islamic terrorists, members of Al-Qaeda, killed over 3,000 people and caused billions of dollars of economic damage. Is that clear? But as to whom? I was attacked. Your relatives and friends were attacked. Our constitutional freedoms were attacked. And our nation's founding on Judeo-Christian principles were attacked. That's what some people did. Got that now?
That's a pretty strong statement. But that is what Americans remember. Barack Obama used to say, that's not what we are. That's not who we are. Well, I'm going to use that same tone back to Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar, Representative Omar, that's not who we are. We're much better than what you claim that we are. We're much better than that. After 9/11, a lot of people have said, oh, we'll never forget, never forget, never forget, never forget 9/11. Never forget, never forget, never forget, never forget. But do you know what I see out there? I see a lot of people who've forgotten. A lot of people have forgotten 9/11. A lot of people forgot the feelings, the fear, the uncertainty, the anxiety. They've forgotten the anger. I'm not saying that we have to bring all the anger back and we have to go after people in this country or other countries. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that we don't forget. We shouldn't forget. Now, some of us who are historians, we haven't forgotten Pearl Harbor. We haven't forgotten the John F. Kennedy assassination. Haven't forgotten the Challenger explosion. Haven't forgotten the Black Hand, creation of World War I. Haven't forgotten the Civil War. In my case, I haven't forgotten the War of the Roses or King Philip's War. I'll look those up. But the fact is, I was having this conversation with a producer about Europe. In Europe, for centuries, they've had good kings, they've had bad kings. They've been taken over by barbarians, and then they've kicked the barbarians out. They were taken over by the Moors in southern Spain, and then they kicked the Moors out 100 or 200 years later. That's the way Europe is. Well, America, we're not quite that way. We have people coming over here from all around the world, including Mogadishu, Somalia, that there is an expectation that you're going to blend in to this fabric that we call America, that you're going to accept its ideals, that you're going to believe in our strengths, and that when we're attacked, that you're going to mourn with us. That's what Ilhan Omar doesn't get. That's why I say we're much better than that. She wants to divide us. Folks, we're better than that. But we cannot forget the lesson from 9/11. A lot of people lost their lives, not just on 9/11, but in the 18 successive years as cancers and depression have set in. And I'm talking about the people who were there. We can't be blind to that either. But at the same time, we can't be stuck in the past as a method of saying that we can't get beyond that. You know, we've gotten beyond that. We've gone to war. We've vanquished our foes. We've come back. Hopefully the wars in the Middle East with American involvement will wind down. I know that's what President Trump is actually trying to do. It's one of the reasons that John Bolton is no longer National Security Advisor to him. President Trump wants us to get out of the Middle East. This is the thing the Democrats have wanted ever since we got there. Perhaps this is time that they actually support the president in something. But here's something else that happened just last night. At Ground Zero, we had this. People singing, "God Bless America." And that's how we're going to leave you today. For Dallas Pearson, producer, I'm your host, Jeff Williams. You're watching North Star Oasis. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.